Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode. On today's video we're going to be discussing a question, but more so a topic. Now the question itself is, are you a gamer or are you a collector? I think this is quite a universal topic for anybody interested in retro gaming. You know, you don't have to have a YouTube channel, but I think if you do, it would really be worth making a video about it. Now I first heard this question on my good mate Callum's channel, aka Retro Ghetto. He made a great video about it and it's done really well. I think if you're interested in everything on my channel, I think you'll really like his. I think we're much, you know, quite similar content, and yeah, I'm sure he's up on screen at the moment, but I'm going to put it in the description beneath, and I really recommend everyone go over and check out his channel. But going forward from this, I think this question really makes you consider why you are interested in retro gaming. You know, are you a collector and you're doing it for purely from that standpoint, or are you just a gamer who likes all games and you just happen to have got a bit of a collection together? Well, for me, I think I've got quite a unique answer, because throughout the time I've been a collector, I've worked in a retro game shop for a number of years, and I've also worked in the games industry for a number of years, and those two things are like, you know, both sides of the coin. So I just thought it would be quite interesting to get my take on this. It sounded a bit big-headed, that, didn't it? Well, anyway, I think we should start off with talking about being a gamer. Right, so let's get straight into it. If we're going to be comparing what it is to be a gamer or a collector during this topic, I think we need to really define what it is to be a gamer. So for me in this circumstance, I'd say it's somebody who just has a big desire to play games, and pretty much always has. So they'll have played a lot of things over a lot of different genres and over a lot of different generations, and they might not necessarily have a big desire to collect games physically, but they've probably amassed some sort of a collection over time, just because they like to go back and forth and just play the games that they love. I'd say early on I definitely fell into that category that I just described, but as times went on, I've hit this new niche category where my collection's far too big to just be one or the other, so you know, it's time to decide, which is the whole point in this video. The irony is that being a gamer and loving everything and having so much nostalgia for all the games that have had such a big impact on me over my whole life is exactly the thing that's led me into being a collector. So it's sort of a double-edged sword in a way when it comes to that. And one thing that I would say as well is being a gamer as a young kid and having such a big impact from playing all, you know, like Final Fantasy VII, Metal Gear Solid, all these games that meant everything to me growing up. That really is what led me long term into getting a job in the games industry. And now I've worked in the industry for a number of years, and you know, obviously I love it. I'm very, very grateful for it, but it sort of made me approach gaming in a different way. I mean, throughout a game's development, you'll notice when things start to change, and especially when you start reporting issues and things and seeing those changes happening over the course of time, all of a sudden you get a really different appreciation for gaming and for what it is to be a gamer. I mean, I like to think that as a tester, I always have the gamer in mind, and I'm always trying to think about what's going to benefit them at the end of whatever work it is that I'm doing on each title. Another thing as well is it's really made me appreciate all the artwork put in and all the different stages of development on a title. And because of that, I've managed to get all the loads of stuff like art books. You know, I've got quite a half decent art book collection, but it's purely through working in the industry and just getting a massive appreciation for it. So I'd say in regards to that, I'd say the art book side of the collection is because I'm a gamer and not that I'm an artist. So I'd say that. Another big point that I'd make about being a gamer is I only collect things that I actually like. So I only buy games. You know, a lot of people will buy things in a system and they'll buy like every single demo or every single sports game or blah blah blah, whereas that's really not me. And there's nothing wrong with either way, you know, obviously, but for me, I buy games because I actually want to play them, and I'm constantly going up to the collection and going up to each bookcase and just thinking, right, what am I going to play next week? You know, I've got time off this weekend or whatever, I'm going to be playing that. I mean, right now I'm playing a game called Vandal Hearts, which is a fantastic old game, by the way. I really recommend it, but I've had that in the collection for years and I've just not had a chance to play it, because obviously, you know, you always have a big backlog. I mean, if I did a video about my game and backlog, it would be about friggin' 2 hours long, let me tell you. But anyway, yeah, what I'm trying to say is I'm always playing stuff that I buy, or at least I always intend to play stuff that I buy. So if I go out to a retro game shop or something, I'll pick up a few things. First thing I'll do when I get home is I'll put them all in and I'll play them straight away. Well, obviously I'm not going to play it to completion, but I mean, I'll just double check and make sure it's a game that I wanted and everything, and I'll just get a feel for how, you know, what the priority of what I need to play as, sort of thing. Another thing that I'd use as an example for that is this monster of a machine right here. I think it's called a Fairchild Channel F in America, and over here it's called the Grandstand. I had no idea what this thing was, and I definitely had no idea you could get it boxed until I got it at Car Booty for a tenner, which was quite a good deal. But my good mate, Sam Jones, aka Jam Scones, he had one of these in his garage, and when we first started going to Car Booties, we played this thing, and then that's a weird situation where I got it, I played it because I was a collector, so I was sort of branded at the time, but now I still play it every now and again just because it reminds me of that time. So I'd definitely say that early on, talking about this, I'm leaning towards a gamer, and I am going to give a definitive answer at the end of this, so there's not going to be you know, there's not going to be anything hanging in the balance, you know, leaving you on a cliffhanger. But anyway, that's pretty much all I've got to say about being a gamer. I mean, if I'm going to summarise it, I'd say it's had such a massive impact on my life purely through being a gamer that it's quite hard to argue against it. But we're about to talk about what it is to be a collector, so we'll see. So what is a collector? If you're talking about stamps and all that type of crap, then it's just someone with quite an addictive personality. I definitely fit that mold. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to have a big keyring collection, which looked awful. It was like a big squid of wires. I collect vinyl records. I used to be into like Pokemon cards and Yu-Gi-Oh cards and Duel Masters, if anyone can remember that. But in terms of gaming, I'd say these days, it seems anybody with more than a handful of Super Nintendo games or any retro games at all is a retro games collector. So I think that's why it's quite important to make this video. So we can now say, I'm a collector who happens to be a gamer, or I'm a gamer who happens to be a collector. But I'd say it's probably somebody who's much more focused on the collectability and maybe potentially the monetary value of everything you have, rather than the fact that they play it. Maybe they just play the same old games, but they happen to have a massive collection that they've got together through a lot of hard work. Early on, I wouldn't say that I was in that. I was put into that field. But I got a job in a retro game shop called Level Up a few years after I started collecting, and it was an amazing time. I'm not making this video to gush over my time working in a retro game shop, but anyone watching the videos who used to come there, and you know, Lucy, who employed me, aka Torafina, whose channel I will share right now, they know that it was such an incredible time. And the reason I'm showing how passionate I am about it now is to show how quickly I got into collecting. Because before that, I was just someone who gamed, who happened to have a fairly decent collection, but I was mainly buying things that I'd either always wanted or that I'd lost over the years. Whereas all of a sudden, I was buying games that I'd barely heard of. You know, I'd done a bit of research on them and stuff, and I used to always have to watch loads of videos, you know, to try and keep up to date with what people are asking for and give people advice, you know, coming into the shop. But yeah, all of a sudden I'm buying games, you know, that I'm not necessarily that interested in. You know, for instance, like Final Fantasy, I've got the full bookcase behind me. I mean, there's games that came out for that for that franchise on the Wii, which are pretty shocking, to be honest. But all of a sudden I was buying them, and I'm buying GameCube games that I'm probably never going to play, or at least that I'm not going to play immediately. You know, they're just barely games that I want to play. So I'd say that was a big turning point for that, but it also showed me the monetary value of these games. All of a sudden, over the course of a couple of weeks, I realised that my collection, it wasn't just a theory that I had, that it was worth a couple of £1,000. I knew I valued items in the shop, and I sold them, and I was involved in trading items, you know, retro games on a regular basis. So all of a sudden, my collection's worth a lot of money, and now it's worth an awful lot more than what it used to be. So in the back of my mind, I am always thinking I should get that collector's edition, I should get this version of it, I should get that version of it, because one day, you know, it will be a bit more monetary valuable. Monetary valuable, great English there, Jackson. But anyway, you know, you'll keep that in mind, the worth of things. And also, you know, from a completionist point of view, I want to get every single Final Fantasy game that's came out now, you know, I don't care. So I'm in a bit of a weird situation where I mainly collect games that I want to play, But at the same time, things like the Final Fantasy collection, I want to get all of that. Things like the PlayStation 1, I want to get all the RPGs in the PlayStation 1 because that's my main collection. So we've got these little niches within the collection overall, which you go for. But then when you look at something like my Dreamcast collection, it's pretty much just games that I like, that I want to play, and it goes on like that. So like the bigger the collection, the more of a collector I seem to be becoming. One good example of how working in this retro game shop affected me as a collector and buying retro games happened very, very recently, over the course the last couple of weeks. So me and my missus Ashley, we completed Game of Thrones. We watched the whole thing. I've never watched before because it was just so long, but during lockdown there's more time than ever. So we watched the whole thing. You know, it was great. I don't think the last season was quite as bad as people think it was, but it definitely was not as good. But we're not here to talk about Game of Thrones. We're here to talk about the Game of Thrones games. Obviously, I watch the series, I want to play games about it, and I found out about an RPG that came out on the PlayStation 3. It's about £4, but what I did is I found the promo version. I'll have to do a video about my promo collection because I've got quite a few decent things now. But yeah, this is one of those things where it's never going to be worth a lot of money, but maybe one day it would definitely be worth more than a normal copy. And the only reason I go for that is purely from working on Level Up and through gaining that monetary value of everything. And another thing, I just had to get the strategy guide as well. I hate buying new games without buying the guide as well. I've got a massive strategy guide collection, and I'll be honest, some of the guides that I've got, I haven't even got game for yet. I just know that they're really rare and they're hard to find. So I've managed to get a really good collection there. But I think that may lean a little bit more towards me being a gamer as well, because, you know, it literally helps you to play the game, and, you know, that's going through nostalgia as well, reading the guides and all that type of thing. But yeah, I just thought that would be a nice little example there of how the collector side of things has influenced me and my purchases going forward. Anyway, we're going to summarise now, and I hope some of you are still awake and still enjoying the video. It's nearly over, so don't worry. We'll get to the outro right now. So you've heard both my sides of the argument for being a gamer and being a collector, or at least my own outlook on it anyway. Now, the big question, the drum roll please, am I going to sit in the fence or do I have a definitive answer? Of course I've got an answer for you, and the answer is I am a gamer. I'm a gamer who probably has collecting tendencies. I mean, that's a great slogan, I'm a gamer with collector's tendencies. I think that overall, it's probably like a 70-30 split for myself. I think a lot of people are going to meet near in the middle when you've got a collection of this size anyway. But for me, you know, the main reason that I'm a collector is because I was such a big gamer. I only buy games that I like, and I think that's a massive argument winner for myself between being a gamer and a collector. You know, I don't have every single Sega Mega Drive sports game. I don't have every Sega game or every of anything. The only thing I'm interested in getting complete is the Final Fantasy collection, and, you know, PS1 RPGs, that's about it. They're very niche collections within an overall bigger collection. And like I said, I'm intending to play every game that I've got if I possibly can, or at least play a little bit of them. Also, I work in the games industry, and I think that's a big point as well to raise. The reason I work in the games industry is because I was such a big gamer growing up. You know, it's not just nostalgia for me. For me, games like Final Fantasy 7, you know, Final Fantasy 10, Metal Gear Solid, Abe's Odyssey, these games made me the person I am and really shaped and built my character. If I was just a collector and I was just putting them on the shelf and looking at them every now and again, I wouldn't have had, you know, it wouldn't have had that impact on me, and I probably wouldn't be the person I am today or the character that I am today. You know, some people were really happy about that, some people would be gutted. They'd be wishing I never played these games over the years, I'd be totally different. But yeah, like I said, I definitely say that characterise myself as being a gamer over being a collector, which is quite ironic because the name of this channel is Liverpool Retro Gamer. So, you know, if there's a comprehension, you know, the answer was in the question. So anyway, yeah, thank you for watching everyone, and Callum, aka Retro Ghetto again, thank you for making the video that inspired me doing this this response video. I really would love to see a lot of my other YouTube mates make these, because it really made me think about, you know, how I define myself, and, you know, am I just a collector? Am I just another person on Instagram putting up pictures of games, or am I a gamer? So yeah, I really recommend everyone does it. You should definitely check out Retro Ghetto's channel, and yeah, thanks for watching. As I always say, if you keep watching them, I'll keep making them. Hope you enjoyed it, everyone. Until next time, peace.